Feels to me like today's China isn't one for Chinese people, but for a massive spectacle for foreigners. Now, there's a duality of China. The pretty drone shows, the walking robots, the so-called peaceful rise.
Okay, don't cancel me for this, but China's rise is a peaceful one. In modern history, it is the only major power to reach global influence without starting a war of expansion.
And whatever this is trying to say.
How awesome is this? I'd come here just for the scenery. This decor is incredible. I bet they spent so much money on this.
That alone cancels all the terrible things that the CCP does. And then there's also the other side.
求求我们的国家尽量快一点，能够实现全民5.8小时工作制，每个人都有双休，不用加班，工资涨一涨。
The fact that criticizing Xiaomi cars can get you into trouble with the police.
小米这个车是真的不能买，谁买小米谁倒霉，我跟你讲。啊，看得到的啊，七代档小米还真的把我抓了，关起来了。哎，小米还是非常可以的，这小米啊。
Can you imagine if you said the Ford F-150s are trash and the next day the police comes knocking? For every Jackson Hinkle post of the city center of China, there's a real look at the rest of the country. Communism doesn't work. Why is it so advanced? Great question. I wonder if it isn't the great capital investments in the 1980s that suddenly shot the country into money. Now, my point is, for how much advancement dramatic oversaturated skyline videos featuring Chinese tier 1 cities, you have these random organic captures on camera, or appears to be, which really basically is just a scripted video portraying China as the next generation wonderland. There's a ton of videos out there of hard work, blood, sweat, and tear. Behind it, those sacrifices are often being used to legitimize a regime that is persecuting religious groups, silencing people for talking about the death of an actor, and offering no real freedom whatsoever. No real free speech or no real freedom of the press. And this video really caught my eye. This was the iron robot showcased in China by a company called Xpeng. While they tried to dispel rumors about it being a real person inside, after all, even Chinese people started accusing them of basically faking the show. They had to show a robot cutaway to reveal the internal structure. And of course, people are still skeptical. Xpeng, the company, is known to have stolen from Tesla and Apple and copying from others. And showing a robot walking on stage doesn't really show that it is so advanced, as if it's so groundbreaking that a robot can walk. I mean, the Japanese robot companies have done walking robots back 40 years ago. And of course, what they dazzle you with is this appears to be a remote-controlled robot walking. And as you see in this shot, the man gestures those behind the stage to stop the robot. The reality of Chinese robotics is more like this. Here you see a man controls the robot with a controller behind his back. And there's also a reason why Chinese people question their own companies. A day in the life of a country that is filled with moral decay, class and socioeconomic discrimination, and unfortunately for most people, a major sense of misery. For every China is pretty, there is a China is ugly.
朋友们，你看啊，我在沿个背水公园，不像你搞出来的，过了背水你死完了，我这个白天就关门警察过来还我10两，那个水保镖货主还过来我10两的，我背水公园的。
非常的糟糕，水污染很严重，痛心疾首啊！这么好的风景，还有古代的文物，这个水竟然变成了这个样子。大家仔细看一下这个水，看到没有？这是在崇山峻岭里面啊，非常的糟糕，水污染很严重。 后面这个地方也是个文物保护啊，是一个古代的廊桥。这个地方是一个原本应该是个山清水秀的地方啊，悬崖绝壁啊。
For every China is lifting people out of poverty video, well, there's another food scandal. Maybe more than one. For every socialism with Chinese characteristics works post on X, a family is having their home demolished forcefully by the government.
我家被强拆3天了，还是一片废墟，没人来过问。这就是我的家，已经住了几十年，老房子了。早上来一批人叫我先出来，我说要拆房子吗？我家东西家具等都在里面，他们说没有，不影响，你先出来吧。
然后当天过来拆的时候，他们也都没有通知，没有通知我们家，也没有通知这边任何一个邻居，他们所有人都不知道。当时是用这种铁皮，很大的铁皮。
And those families receive well below average compensation if they do get a compensation, or are put into a new house, which of course the development is poorly constructed, so it's meant to break. Now, in this particular case, the woman and 17 others in the area had their homes demolished. They did not receive any prior notice or even compensation. And this person's Beijing home was also demolished. They dispatched a large number of armed police to defend the demolition, of course, from the homeowner. So when you have a regime that has so much power, there's really a lot of misery. There's no place to vent those frustrations. And in turn, you get what's called a revenge against society, indiscriminate rampage against innocent children and other people. A Chinese person today has 3 roles. First is to become the organ supply for an important person, because they could be required to disappear at any given moment should one of these officials need a new body part. And second, the workhorses and oxen. They're built to be used. They so patiently save for a home. For many, it just ends up like this one. This video shows a former homeowner who bought a rotten tail home, successfully got his refund, and then became a lawyer fighting for the justice of others just like it. Rotten tail homes are essentially projects that started but never finished, so you can imagine the tail end of it has rotten. And in this video, the homeowner turned lawyer features a family who has been waiting for their home to be built, and it's been 834 days. Yeah. So that home cost about 1.4 million yuan, or about 200,000 USD. And standing in what is essentially just the outer structure of the building, the couple and the lawyer had lost their first and second rounds of the case. Because you got to know that in China, the legal system isn't really an independent branch. It's more like serfs under the party. And of course, they were ordered to pay another 36,000 yuan in legal fees. And of course, that had to be paid by the plaintiff, which is the homeowners. Now, the family paid half of the total cost, so about 700,000 yuan. On their own, and the other half, the other 700,000 in loans. Now, usually when these homes are not finished, the banks are not waiting for that project to be done before start collecting, their payments for the mortgage. What the family had to often do is to start paying for it despite not even living in those unfinished buildings. Now, the third role of a Chinese person today is their false identity given by the government. Now, of course, we know that the Chinese regime has told people that, well, most of China is alleviated from poverty. They're living much better now. They're no longer at the poverty line. Perhaps maybe even, many families can go on vacations, even maybe overseas. But the major wealth gap in China is still there. It's very much real. Hundreds of millions of Chinese people still have to deal with the very basic needs not being met. And in these videos, these look to be temporary farm helpers. They essentially go on to remote areas in seasonal picking for vegetables or crops. And while they're there, they live in these dorms. They make a decent wage for the rural area living conditions, but the dorms are terrible. Now, many of these people are crammed into a single room. They share the beddings, the blankets, and everything else. But to them, this is honestly already a great job. The amount that they make could cover months of living in the rural area in China. So, yes, hardship is defined differently when you're in those circumstances. For many Chinese people, they truly believe that things are so much better now compared to what they were living before. And perhaps it's because they haven't known what could actually be possible without the CCP. Now, I came across this video, which is a delivery driver having their child doing homework on the back of the motorbike. And of course, a CCP propagandist account dared to write this. And what's wrong with having a take your child to work day? Times like this are something a child remembers as some of the best and fun times with their parent. Yeah, I'm 100% sure that a child doing homework in a windy condition on the back seat of a bike is enjoying this 12-hour no break constant clashes with the securities in front of the building, possibly getting their bikes towed, and being yelled at by the customers or the restaurants. Such a great memory. Now, other lower wage earners, of course, have to deal with this issue too of something called delayed pay. Almost every day, there's a new case of workers protesting that they haven't been paid. Now, I thought Karl Marx said that from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. So why are these workers who are, the core proletariats not getting their fair share? Well, I'll let you know why. It's because China has a huge discrimination issue against different socioeconomic class. And so if you are one of those low wage earners, yeah, you're simply going to get discriminated against. And oftentimes, well, your wage payments doesn't matter because they know that you don't have the power to go out there and seek help. And even if you do, I mean, the legal system is on the side of the government and those who they want to protect. The chance of you winning, it's quite slim. So yeah, there's a duality of China, one that seems really nice to the foreign eyes and one that lived experience can really tell you something different. So thanks so much for watching this episode. Hope you enjoy the content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.